नमस्कार। रसोई के रहस्य के सभी सुनने वालों को इस नववर्ष में हम सबकी ओर से स्वागत है। We're here today with our first episode of this beautiful new year of 2022. अब साल शुरू हुआ तो त्योहार भी शुरू हुए and the first festival in January happens to be संक्रांति। संक्रांति एक ऐसा त्योहार है जो कि शायद भारतवर्ष में कोई ऐसा प्रांत राज्य या ऐसा घर होगा जहां पर किसी न किसी तरीके से सेलिब्रेट ना होता। So we decided that we would start this new year with an auspicious beginning and talk to 4 people belonging to 4 different regions about this beautiful festival of Sankranti. इनको क्या कहा जाता है, किस नाम से जाना जाता है, अब जो हमारे मेहमान हैं हमको वो ही बताएंगे। तो आज हमारी जो मेहमान है वो है दक्षिण भारत से, फ्रॉम साउथ इंडिया। She is a very, very good friend. She is a social entrepreneur. She has worn many hats. She has run a social enterprise जिसमें आर्टिस्ट को फैसिलिटेट किया है उन्होंने, और खुद 1 साल का ब्रेक लेके she has gone to take her masters. She is somebody who enjoys food, not just cooking but feeding as well. मैंने उनके हाथ का बहुत ही स्वाद, मेरे को याद है, पायसम खाया हुआ है। एंड शी इज अ मॉम। ट्रेडिशंस फॉलो करती हैं, लेकिन वो ट्रेडिशंस इसलिए फॉलो किए जा रहे हैं। व्हाट इज इट इन दोज ट्रेडिशंस दैट आर इम्पोर्टेंट एंड व्हाई इज इट दैट दोज ट्रेडिशंस एक्चुअली आर बीइंग फॉलोड? ये रहस्य हमारे लिए खोलेंगी आज हेमा बालकृष्णन, जो रहती हैं हैदराबाद में। बट आई विल लीव हर टू टेल यू वेयर ऑल शी इज बीन एंड ऑल दैट शी इज डन. So let's welcome Hema. Hi Hema, welcome to Rasoi Ke Rahasya.
Hi Payal, I know you don't like me to say this, but I'm a huge fan of your work and it's an absolute honor to be on your podcast.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So like I said, we're talking about Sankranti. You're my favorite person in the South, considering you make all sorts of wonderful food, wonderful goodies, and you'll have, like you said, you delve into tradition and find out why we do what we do. So let's begin with what Sankranti means to you, because Sankranti to me is, growing up as a child, looking at those beautiful clear skies, lovely breeze, still a little cool, lots of kites, lots of food, lots of people. What does Sankranti mean to you? Living in Hyderabad, living wherever else, growing up and with your children. So please share those aspects.
Yeah, that's true. It's like the first festival of the year. It is a celebration of harvest. I'm a Tamilian who grew up in Hyderabad. Somewhere in my heart, I'm more Hyderabadi than Tamil, but imbibed all the traditions, the culinary traditions mainly, and rituals that we would follow in Tamil Nadu. But it was the most exciting beginning to the year because Hyderabad, as we all know, is just famous for its Kite Festival. Absolutely. It's a absolute celebration of people flocking in their terraces, screaming, challenges at each other, flying kites, and lots of food and, drinks coming out onto the terrace, and everyone enjoying a very, very good sunny come windy day. Those are my memories. We always grew up in an apartment, so there was enough and more adults and children flocking to the terraces and actually competing for space, the best corners of the terrace every year.
Don't forget all the loud music.
The blaring loud music, but all adding to the fun. And so that is the fun part of Sankranti for us. And at home, these are my earliest and fondest memories. Okay, so we lived in Secunderabad. Mom used to go to work, and on the day before Pongal, as we call it in Tamil Nadu, we would set off on her hero moped, if you please, to Monda market to buy the sugarcane stalks with their leaves. And we also used to buy fresh turmeric plants with their leaves. I'll tell you how we use that on day 2. And then, of course, new rice, Moong dal and Jaggery. That's the one festival where we use new rice instead of the old rice that we prefer on a daily basis.
Yes.
And came back home with the bags filled with all the vegetables and fruits we could possibly get in the market that were fresh. So the fruits would be offered the next day along with all the other goodies that are made during the puja. And the nice thing about Pongal, especially in our house and most other Tamilian houses I know, it's not as much religious as much as it is a very community gathering. In that sense, it has more rituals than anything that's religious attached to it. For starters, it was thanking the farmers for all that they do for us to give us the nourishment and nutrition that we all get in our stomachs every day. And also thanking the sun, the Surya Bhagwan, for abundant sunlight that all our plants need and the earth needs for it to help us grow and reap a harvest. So this is what we were told as to start with, that this is what Pongal is all about. And of course, we would have already got new clothes. I remember wearing a new Pavadai every Pongal until the time I started hating Pavadais, but at least as a little girl, I wore a new Pavadai every Pongal. And then we would come back home with these bags full of things. Don't ask me how we juggled all the sugarcane stalks on the bike and did our balancing act, got back home. And
the
then
Buddha market, no less.
Yes, please. And then came back home and started decorating the house very simply. There's no great decorations. Just tie the 2 sugarcane stalks with a lot of leaves on either side of the mandapam of the puja room.
Yeah.
And just put out everything in trays, wait for the next morning. The next morning, we would all have no early bath like Diwali and all at a normal time. And then the normal aarti, offering first the fruits and all the vegetables and other things that would have come fresh from the market that will be going into the food that afternoon. And early, say around 9ish, mom would start making the Pongal. Our most special dishes on Pongal were Ven Pongal, which is the savory Pongal.
Yes.
Then Sakkarai Pongal, which is the sweet Pongal. And the Urad Vada, for which we would soak urad, and by lunchtime we would have vadas flowing all over the place. And some payasam and like normal meal, sambar with some aloo roast and a raita, tair pachdi as we call it. But this whole thing about, the bustle that goes on in the house, that it's the first. So in the morning, the cooker would be decorated with chandan and kumkum.
Oh,
and
lovely.
Then
lovely.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the turmeric leaves would be tied across the cooker.
Wow.
Or like traditionally it was done in big brass pots. But because we lived in an apartment and we did not have that luxury anymore, it could either be a brass pot in my grandmother's house or a cooker in a thick, basically it needed to be a thick bottomed pan.
Yes.
And so the turmeric leaves would be tied all around it. And to start with, we would boil milk first. And when the milk boils over, you take a plate and a spoon and the bells and scream Pongalo Pongal, Pongalo Pongal when the milk starts boiling over. And that's the one day you actually let the milk boil over.
Oh.
On no other day. On all the other days we have accidents, but on this day we actually let it flow out and then turn off the gas. Then we would start making Pongal. So that's the first thing that's done in the mornings. So this is pretty much like my fondest memories of Pongal. I'll tell you more as we go along.
It's a 4-day festival in Tamil Nadu, if
Yes.
I'm not mistaken. So why don't you walk us through briefly, or what are the 4 days about?
So the first day is Bhogi, which is actually before the main Pongal day. It's the last day of the Margari month in Tamil Nadu.
Okay.
On which day they also discard as many old, unused items, clothes, and things that no longer serve you any purpose.
Right.
It's a day for cleaning up and being ready to welcome the new harvest, making space for the new.
Right.
So that's Bogi. And it's also the day they pray to Lord Indra, because he's the Lord of rain and he's also the symbol of prosperity and abundance.
Right.
So that's the day dedicated to Indra. The second day is Pongal. The third day is Matu Pongal, where they honor and decorate all the cows and thank them for all their gifts. That's from milk to the bulls that plow the fields, etc. And the fourth day is Kanu Pongal, on which day we actually pray for our brothers. That's one of my favorite parts of Pongal, which is so we actually shortened it to, like, we don't do a 4-day Pongal. Most houses now do a 3-day Pongal, especially those that are not in farming. The people in rural Tamil Nadu, they still follow a very elaborate 4-day Pongal. Tamil Nadu is pretty much shut down for 4 days because people are busy doing what they need to do. But in most other houses, it's almost become like a 3-day festival. So the Kanu has actually come off now to the 3rd day rather than the 4th. So the day after Pongal, that's the day I was saying I will tell you where we use the turmeric leaves.
Right.
So very early morning, and I would always be grumpy because you have to get up at 5:45 in the morning. My mom would come and wake me up and say, it's time for that thing. So then we would go to the balcony or the terrace, lay out these turmeric leaves, wash them with water, and then that's the day we actually use old food. Like Tambrams are not famous for using old food in any ritual. But this is the one festival in which we would have saved up the Pongal of the previous day, the savory, that's Vend Pongal, and the Sakkarai Pongal, small pieces of sugarcane, and then we will have saved some white rice from the previous day. That is the cooked rice, to which we separate it into 3 piles. And the first pile, we actually mix curd and rice, very little amount. And this is for the crows and sparrows, if you please. Okay, so the first pile is thai sadam. The second pile is turmeric, that's turmeric powder mixed with rice. And the third pile is kumkum mixed with rice, very interestingly. So there are these 5 types of rice that are put in very small tidbit portions on the leaves. Okay. So we'll start with the sweet pongal, followed by the Vend Pongal, then the turmeric, then kumkum rice, and then the curd rice. And then keep small pieces of the sugar cane that we've cut on, like 4 leaves we would have spread out. And so my mom will take 2 and I take 2. And so what do we do on that day is we actually pray for our brothers. It's for us Raksha Bandhan, as much as Raksha Bandhan is for the north side of India. This is our day that we pray for our brothers' protection and safety. And so we also have a very funny song that goes with it. Whenever we lay out that rice on the leaf, we say, Kaka podi vechen, kannu podi vechen, kaka kum kurvikum kalyanam. And it means I kept some food for the crows, I kept some food for the sparrows, and I hope that the crows and the sparrows will get married. Okay. And it's really very funny. And I always used to wonder, why do they say this? Like, what is the real meaning in this? And so my mother would explain that it means that even enemies should come together. They should all be as one. At least on this day, we should all come together, forgetting all our differences. So I thought, yes. So I enjoyed that part of it. And then you do Aarti. So this is basically a way of nazar utarofying in our families. It's like all the ill omens and everything else is offered to that Aarti. And it's cleansing. And then you go home,
Yes.
And you have a bath, a head bath again, and then you enter the kitchen after that.
Right.
Like you don't actually start anything in the kitchen until you've done this. It's a very elaborate cleansing process of the home and yourself, and then you actually begin fresh. And on Kanu, we would make coconut rice, lime rice, and avial.
Oh, perfect.
So that was like a extra special day. And the other interesting thing about Kanu is that's the day all the girls celebrate it at their mom's places. Like they go to their mother's house for a meal. Suppose you live in your married house, you keep Kanu in the morning in your mother-in-law or husband's house. And then after your bath, you go actually to your mother's house and celebrate Pongal with your brothers and their wives and your mother's side of the family. They all will have tons of gifts for you. Wonderful. That's the day the brothers give you lots of gifts, and then you come back home in the evening if you live in the same city, town. Yeah. So those are some of my fondest memories.
Wonderful. It's so. I mean, look at it. From being the mere gathering or something that we perceive and we get it so wrong, we put it all, lump it with religion, and it has absolutely nothing to do with religion. It, like you said so correctly. It's people, it's community, it's sharing, it's giving, it's taking care of people and even other creatures, being grateful. I think mindful, that's truly what it's all about. And this is so beautiful. But I'm curious, living in Hyderabad, we have always seen these huge, large rangolis that they make on Sankranti.
Yeah.
Does that happen for in Tamil Nadu?
Yeah, I told you we lived in Hyderabad more than we lived in Tamil Nadu. So we also got into this whole, in Tamil Nadu, we make a kolam that's not with so many colors. We always have two basic colors, which is white and the other is brick. So the white comes from the rice powder.
Yes. Okay.
And the brick comes from powdered brick actually.
Right.
Both are actually mixed with water to make a kolam which will not, on a daily basis we use powder, but on special days we actually mix it with water and make elaborate columns so that they last for the whole day and they don't get blown away by the wind.
Yes, and the wind is rather violent at that time.
Yeah, so the houses will actually vie with each other for the dots, elaborate columns that we run with our hands along the lines and dots, and it's the thing that fascinates me most about columns is you don't know their beginning or end. Okay, when you see them, they seem very seamless.
Absolutely. Truly.
Yeah, that's something very fascinating. And then in the center of that column, there'll be a small ball of cow dung with a flower in it in most traditional Tamil Nadu houses. But we in the city would hardly ever get gobar to keep in the center. But then it would just be a flower in the brick red center.
But that's so much of tradition in so many different ways. And despite the fact that we follow all of them, even now, having moved on so much, I think that's what keeps us rooted and to who we are, more to our families than to a tradition. And you pass it on to your children for that very reason, because you want them to know that there was something of your family and of the house that was passed along. So, but
I remember that when I went away to France and Deepthi was managing here on her own, she called me on the day before Pongal, and she's never a tearful person, but she actually was in tears that one particular day and said, "Ma, I really miss your Sakkarai Pongal. I really miss you for just that. Can you tell me how you used to make it? Because I never bothered to learn." And then I told her that this is the recipe and here's also a link that you can actually see and follow. And she made a ton of it.
Oh, wow.
Okay, and fed all her friends around her, and they all had a ball, licking their fingers, eating Sakkarai Pongal and tons of it. And that really brought me to tears. Like, that was like, oh my God, this is really how much, it means to them, which I
you
quite
don't
didn't
realize
realize.
it. You don't realize it because as you're growing up, I mean, you just follow it because it's the done thing. When you're little, when you're growing older, you suffer it because you say, oh God, we have to do it, you suffer it. But I think it's when you really move on and, find your own that you really value these things, and especially in other countries or when you're on your own in a different state, your traditions stay with you. It's your connection to them, I think.
Yeah, you like to feel really close to your roots. And the closest you feel to your roots is actually, your connection with your gut, very funnily. So it's all memories of that day that's associated with your gut. Okay, what tastes, what aromas, what food dishes, what was spread on the table, your memories of what, smells were wafting around the house. Those are what make you actually recreate it every time. It's not so much, for us, it's more like, I feel that religion brings about a lot of fear-based rituals. But, festivals like this are just about like reminiscing and reliving those joys that you associate with that particular day, and you try to remember as many details of it and try to incorporate it in the entire day of that festival.
Absolutely. And it's setting such a beautiful tone for the rest of the year. You begin with a celebration and you begin with gratitude, you begin with being mindful, thanking every creature, and it's strange how we don't even realize, but as I sit now speaking with you, is when it comes to mind that we begin on a note of gratitude, setting, truly, truly wishing and hoping that the rest of the year brings with it the abundance and, everything that you're going to eventually work towards. Now that we're talking about food, as always, it's the center stage. It's holding everything, like you said, it's the gut, it's the aroma, it's the memories related to food. So here in your tradition and in the way things happen in Tamil Nadu, it's basically talking about food being offered that is all new. Is that right?
Yes. That day, it's the new harvest. It would have traditionally come from the new harvest that's been reaped. So different communities in Tamil Nadu have different traditions that they uniquely follow, but it all has a common thread. And there is sugarcane in everybody's house. There is Pongal in everybody's house. Some families don't make savory pongal, some make, but they cook the grandest meal of the year, and might I say, it could probably be a much bigger festival in Tamil Nadu than even Diwali. So it's the beginning and it's the grandest festival. So the villages are grandly decorated and everybody welcomes everyone else to their houses. They share their abundance with each other and get around the table traditionally people would sit on the ground and the elders, women and ladies of the house will spread out banana leaves and serve everybody sitting on the floor to, course after course.
Wearing the traditional sari.
Yes, Pattu Podve. The new Kanjivaram saris will be inaugurated that day. Yeah. All the finery would come out and all that. So it's a great feeling of joy. In Tamil Nadu, they don't fly kites as much as they do in Hyderabad and Telangana for that matter. But it's more about, you'll see a lot of these people going from house to house with the bulls that are very grandly decorated and blowing the that particular instrument and collecting money,
Yes.
going around from house to
We
house. That
hear
also
them
happens
here.
here.
Yeah, Hyderabad
Here
also we hear them.
it's a particular time of the year they all
Yes.
come out, and they actually the bulls are trained to bless. So if you actually go out to give them money, then the man who's taking care of them will say, now bless this family with joy and abundance in the whole year. He'll say it in Telugu, and that bull will shake its head up and down, up, down, ding, 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 and it's what the children will all look forward to when you give them.
I think it's the best way to do things, and even like associated memories, of various things, and you just associate it with a particular event or a particular happening. Correct. Or a particular part of the festival that stays in the mind. To my mind, when I think of it, like I said, I see a riot of color in
yes,
and flowers also. I think that's the time. It's almost the onset of spring.
Yes.
So they're beautiful yellows and lovely
marigolds all over. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And that beauty is something that you just cannot compare with anything else at all. So since we've spoken about all this wonderful food and wonderful tradition, what is your favorite part? I saw that the Sakkarai Pongal is one very hot favorite.
I agree.
So I can hear it. The jaggery is also
it's
fresh.
It's delicious. Yeah.
I know it is delicious, of course. So I think this Sankranti, your house.
Akka, done deal.
You don't use
and
sesame?
Also, I remember my son complaining and saying, "What is this nonsense? Why do we make Pongal only specially at that one time of the year? I need to have Pongal 4 or 5 times a year. You can't just make it one day of the year and get away
forget about it then."
Yeah, so we used to make Pongal couple of times or many times in a year, almost
as a dessert,
once a month
like a dessert, like you would everything.
Yeah, just as a dessert. Yeah.
But what about you? Don't I've not heard you mention sesame. You don't use sesame?
We don't use as much sesame as or I don't know, in our house at least we didn't. Yeah, but I remember getting from all our Punjabi and North Indian friends, we would get.
Yes, in the other, I think even the West.
Til ke laddus and gajar.
Gujarat also uses a lot of sesame.
Yeah.
I think it also depends on the, the season. It's
climate
warm,
and
yes. It's not like that in the south. So now it's time
Correct.
for your favorite recipe, Hema. What are you going to share with us?
It was definitely Sakkarai Pongal.
Please tell our listeners how you're going to be making the Sakkarai Pongal, so then all of us can make it as well.
Okay, I'll try to be as detailed as possible. Should I share the ingredients first?
Yes, please.
Okay, so it would be 1 cup of rice to a 1/4 cup of moong dal, yellow moong dal.
Okay.
And the proportion of that is exactly double that amount of jaggery. So if you have 1.25 cups of rice and dal put together, then it's 2.5 cups of jaggery.
How does one figure out 2.5 cups of jaggery? Do you powder jaggery?
You can grate it. Yeah, you can pound it with a stone and you can grate it. So you have, and better to use the Paak jaggery because you'll get a darker pongal than the lighter color of pongal.
The one with the salt, yes. Because the dark jaggery also comes, I think, around this time itself.
Yes, yeah. You can either grate it or put it in a paper and pound it to easily manageable texture. And then a 1/4 teaspoon of elaichi, about a tablespoon or 2 of cashews, kaju. We use on Pongal especially, we have something called the cooking camphor or the pacha karpuram, which also the temples use. You have a distinct aroma coming out, prasadam that you get from a temple, which is optional. If you don't have pacha karpuram, it's absolutely fine. Optional is also raisins or kishmish. And you need about 5 tablespoons of ghee.
Right.
about 4.5 to 5 cups of water at different stages. I'll tell you how, and about a half cup of milk.
Okay.
Which is also optional. Some people choose not to put milk in Pongal, but some people like it like that. So I'll begin with how we start making it. The first step is to dry roast the moong dal for about, say, 3 to 4 minutes until it browns and gives a nice aroma, not before it starts to burn, but it gives out a nice aroma. And this ensures that the Pongal also has a very smoky and nice aroma to it. You keep the roasted moong dal aside and you wash rice in a strain it, mix the roasted moong dal to it, and then you can add. So this was 1.25 cups, right? So you can add roughly 4 to 5 cups of water, which is a lot more than the usual proportion of rice and dal to water, because we want it to be soft and mushy when it's cooked. We don't want the rice to be separate like we would on a normal day. We want it to all come together nicely. So you pressure cook the rice and moong dal together. Once it's done, if you're using a cooker, it would be 5 to 6 whistles. It would be at least a whistle or two more than the usual.
Right.
When it's done, you would, in another thick bottomed vessel, add the jaggery, put all the jaggery and a 1/4 cup of water and start stirring it until it starts to boil well. And you don't need to thicken it too much, but when it is, we call it like a rolling heat or a rolling texture
rolling boil,
of
a rolling
jaggery.
boil. Yes,
rolling boil.
Yes.
Then you add you strain the jaggery and add it to the mashed rice and dal, the cooked dal.
Right.
At this stage, you can choose to add a half cup of milk if you are going to add milk to it. If you don't like the milky texture of Pongal or taste of Pongal, you can have it just with jaggery without adding any milk to it.
Right.
In another small pan, you just take a tablespoon or 2 of the ghee and roast the cashews and the raisins if you're using raisins, and add it on top of the Pongal and add another extra 1 or 2 teaspoons of ghee.
Right.
And Elaichi powder, and bring it all together nicely until you feel that everything's come together nicely. And you can, at that point, add the pacha karpuram or the cooking camphor if you wish to. Even that's optional. And that's that. It's ready to take to the table and enjoy it. It'll be dripping with a bit of, of the ghee aroma on top. And if you want to add an extra special touch to the decoration, you can line the vessel with a banana leaf before transferring your Chakra Pongal into the dish.
So is there a particular kind of dish that one would use traditionally? Is there terracotta or something like that used?
Some homes used to cook it in terracotta clay pot itself.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
And some houses, they would use a brass pot. So you can actually take the brass pot as it is to the table, depending on the size of the family and
absolutely.
But if it's just a medium-ish pot, you can keep it on the table as it is.
And that's it, because it somehow has the touch to it.
Yes, I agree.
Wonderful.
And voila.
It's ready. Oh, God. And it doesn't sound
it should take about it should take about 25 to 30 minutes. Prep time is barely anything. Yeah, it should take a total of 25 to 30 minutes.
I think I should try it as well, because I particularly like the taste of a Sakkarai Pongal. It's just absolutely yummy. Anything with jaggery, actually. I think I'm very partial to anything with jaggery.
Totally agree.
This has set the mood for Sankranti, definitely. And since it's just around the corner and we're all ready to celebrate it, I would say thank you so much for taking time and spending it with us, Hema, sharing memories
Thank you, Payal.
sharing beautiful traditions and everything with us. I'm sure our listeners have a lot more that they'd like to know, but maybe I will make this a tradition for Rasoi Ke Rahasya to start rounding up festivals and different regions and how they make it. I think this is the germination of a new idea in my head.
Wonderful idea, and I think it's
so much. It's so
nice
rich.
to light up everybody's lives with this kind of a start to lovely traditions and memories that we all cherish.
And we live in such a beautiful country that has so many people doing so many beautiful things. And I think it's about time we start chronicling those now.
Absolutely.
So wonderful. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Absolute pleasure to talk to you as always. Thank you.
Wishing you a happy Pongal. And आज का हमारा रसोई के रहस्य का एपिसोड यहाँ तक ही। हमने देखा संक्रांत की शुरुआत दक्षिण भारत से करी, और आपने सुना, हेमा ने हमें बताया कितनी सारी इंटरेस्टिंग चीजें होती यहाँ पर। आपके लिए एक बहुत ही स्वादिष्ट खीर या पायसम या चक्कर पोंगल, जो भी आप कहो, पायसम तो नहीं है, ये अलग किस्म की है, लेकिन कई लोग इसे खीर भी कहेंगे। तो सुनते रहिए रसोई के रहस्य और जुड़े रहिए हमारे सोशल मीडिया पर, इंस्टाग्राम और फेसबुक पर। और अगले एपिसोड तक आपसे विदा लेते हुए नमस्कार।